Alrighty, I want to talk to you guys about another step of what we're about to see. I'm going to show you everything that I have from way back when and the kind of process that Canada's Wonderland is going through and that other Six Flags parks have been through as well. So to quickly start off, what you all already know, because I made a video about this previously, is you'll see what's called survey markings. Survey markings now can be like nails in the ground and these red and white checker points, and a company will come in and survey the property. Now, from my understanding, Canada's Wonderland can actually do this themselves now, and they have been, as well as using aerial with drones. So they have all this information in storage, and whenever they want to build a project, they essentially send this information out to a company, and the company will then go and whatever companies they choose to work with, which from what we've gathered, they send it out to a lot. So for example, RMC, B&M, Intamin, Vekoma, GCI, all the jazz. And all those companies will whip up designs and then submit it back to the park. And then it's up to the park to kind of choose what they're going to choose. So, for example, you heard the park talk about Alpenfury and how there were a bunch of different companies, and then they kind of went down to like 2, and then they kind of worked with Premiere, and Premiere presented the final layout with the 9 inversions. So that's essentially that process. And then they'll start the control points and then the construction project. So essentially what we're seeing all over the park, and this is how I'm able to determine stuttered there. How I'm able to determine the next plot of land that is going to start construction. It's because I kind of understand a lot of these markings, and I know the difference between a survey marking and a control point, and which control points mean what. So it's very obvious where the next construction project is going to take place. And obviously it has to do more so with either a water park addition or Whitewater Canyon. But the survey points over in the Time Warp plot of land as well as Kingswood took place a couple years ago, back in 2023. So this is where things get really interesting, because we have done step 1 of surveying. Step 2, I assume, has taken place as well, where they submitted this to X amount of manufacturers, and their engineering teams are whipping up some concept. And now we're in step 3, where we were just surveyed. So the park has these concepts, and now they're surveying their guests on what they would like to see next at Canada's Wonderland. And once they get the results that they are looking for or need, they will then go and choose. Now, a lot of you might be like, well, this doesn't necessarily mean anything. Well, if history is proving itself, which it has so far, Great Adventure submitted their survey about a year and a half before, construction and the project was chosen for the Mach Extreme Spinner. And now with Alpenfury, we saw it in July 2023, June 11th, 2023. And then we have Alpenfury in 2025. So if we're to make sense of the survey, we could be looking at a next major addition for 2027. Now, if that's going to be the Log Flume, the RMC, or the Mach Extreme Spinner, that's up in the air. It could be one of those 3 things. But I would make a bet that we are going to see one of those 3 things by 2027. I do fully suspect that we'll get one of those major coasters in by 2028, the latest. Based off of the surveying, the timing of these surveying markings, as well as some control points popping up. So definitely very interesting information just to share with you guys. So I wanted to show this footage that you're seeing on the screen is back in 2023, as well as our original survey for Alpenfury. A year later it happened. Great Adventure did their survey, and about a year and a half later it happened as well. With a slight delay now. I also, if you go scour the internet, there's control points that popped up right before they started working on the construction site by demolishing King Dakar. Control points also surrounded the front gate renovation right before it started, and control points also surrounded the south tunnel, maintenance tunnel, that they completely dug up and rebuilt. So a lot of really key information that I'm sharing with you guys that helps me figure out what's going on at the park, what is going to come up more rapidly than another project, what plot of land are we really looking at, what are they thinking about, what possible ride removals are encompassing in a certain area. So definitely a lot of key information, and we're going to go over this over the next 2 weeks. I have a lot of videos planned, and if you can't tell, I'm kind of trying to tell a story right now with the videos that came out. So we worked on the surveys that went out and which rides they could be surveying, and there's a lot of information to unpack in those surveys as well. So that's going to be a whole video, because there's a lot of key information in that survey that a lot of you are missing in terms of the types of rides that Wonderland's looking at. But I'll save that for my next video. This one's about the surveying and what's happening. So I'm going to put up on the screen for you guys right now something that I want to kind of quickly go over. You can see I have a 4-step process. Obviously, there's probably more if you really get into the nitty and gritty. But step 1 is your surveying. We see those low-profile survey stakes all through the park right now, as well as the checkered flags, whether they be for aerial or horizontal land surveying. Step 2 is sending that information off to the ride manufacturers. Right now, it's between Rocky Mountain and Mock Rides, with the potential of a GCI possibly in Whitewater Canyon, because they did survey about that previously. But again, I think they take these surveys and they're picking. I'm going to explain that. A lot of people were kind of like, well, can we get both rides that we saw there, the Extreme Spinner and the RMC? Yes, down the road, Wonderland could bring up that Extreme Spinner, but truthfully, I think what we saw in those surveys between the two roller coasters is Wonderland has their final drawings that the ride manufacturers have presented with them, and they want you guys to essentially choose between the two. And whatever you guys have voted, they're going to build either a Rocky Mountain World Record Breaker or a Mock Rides Extreme Spinner. So those manufacturers, I think Wonderland's down to those two. They probably had way more than those two manufacturers, but Wonderland has specifically pointed out those two layouts, or 3 or 4 from those two manufacturers. And now they are looking for you guys in step 3 to vote and give them the information they need to choose between those two rides. And whatever you guys, the public, the general public, people outside of those surveys, because they have, analysts and people they use like public, I forget the word, but they have other means to get information as well. They're waiting for those results. Once they get those results, step 4 will begin. The control points go up. The construction site gets leveled and bulldozed and graded, and they start construction on whatever they are choosing to build. So it's quite the process, but this is essentially my Amusement Insider's playbook into how I figure out what's going on. We saw with Alpenfury, when those surveys came out, we knew where to look, we knew where to watch. We saw those control points showing up along the route of Alpenfury, as well as the survey markings that changed quite a bit, to be honest, throughout the process. Alpenfury was a little bit of a different story, a lot more last minute than we see what's going on over in the Kingswood area. But yeah, so it's very obvious. We're looking at, that water park expansion, possibly that log flume ride. Still curious about where they're going to fit that. Obviously they know. Or are we going to see, that roller coaster, that world record breaking RMC or Extreme Spinner in 2027? So that's the information that is missing right now. So I have suspected a 2027 coaster. If that is to take place, we should see some land clearing taking place this offseason and seeing some definite signs the minute we walk through front gate next year, early next year, end of April, early May, we should know. And we'll start to watch the construction process of an amazing new coaster. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an announcement of a ride closure at the end of this year, but we'll have to wait and see. So it's a very exciting process. And in my next video, I'm going to talk about what those survey, the survey that they sent out is kind of hinting at, because it almost seems like other parks are heading down a Wonderland route and Wonderland is heading down a Cedar Point route. If you really look at the survey, it's really geared towards coaster enthusiasts. So, yeah, really curious, really excited about the future of Canada's Wonderland, and hopefully you found this video informative and kind of interesting. kind of explaining my nerd evaluation of the park and it's the direction they're heading and the plots of land and the survey markings and the control points and all that. But yeah, anyways, thanks so much and have a good one, guys. Bye.